Okay, well, it's 10:05. Obviously, it's now a good time to start. So, Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us and supporting us once again. First webinar of 2023, first of many. So today's webinar is on water safety management, life-sustaining or life-threatening. As I say, Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you all had a fantastic festive season and have come back to work, eager to get back to the grind, having had a nice relaxing time, although I appreciate some of you in your roles most definitely didn't have a relaxing time. Yeah, unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast. So today's webinar is going to be presented by NANT Ltd. Simon Love is here to do that. NANT are a specialist water safety management organisation in the care sector. The presentation will be approximately 40 minutes long, and obviously there'll be an opportunity at the end for Q&A. If you have any questions whilst the presentation is going through, if it's for clarity, please feel free to raise the hand using the reactions bar at the bottom of your screen. If it's a question around water safety management and a more broadly asked question, then please feel free to put that into the chat. I'll pick those up and obviously ask those when we get to the end of the presentation. If we run out of time in terms of Q&A, I will collate all of the questions and I will raise them with Nant and obviously through Simon, and then we will pull together a Q&A, a response sheet, which will be sent out with the presentation to those people that attend. This is around water safety management roles and responsibilities, as was said in the introduction of the event. Very much, the obvious concerns around water safety management, around scalding, drowning, those sorts of things, absolutely at the forefront of our mind. But for some providers and some people, Legionella doesn't sit at the top of their priority list. And this is really an introduction to your roles and responsibilities and the fact that that really does need to sit right up the top there. So I'm not going to talk too much longer. I'm going to pass over to Simon. So Simon Love from NANT, over to you.
Well, thanks for it. And I just want to echo everything my breath said. So Happy New Year to you all. And we've got this presentation today, and it's not something really in depth. It's just to raise the awareness of NANT and what we do and how you to look after your water safety. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of who I am. So I've recently joined NANT in the last 5 months. I've been a prison officer for 15 years, but I came to work with NANT when I started up my own company. What we give free camper van breaks out to the most deserving people. So like your key workers, your care assistants, your nurses, and your shop assistants, people like that. And it was only when I was after sponsorships, I spoke to NANT, and our values are very the same. We're all about people focused and just keeping people safe. So here I am today with NANT, and we just want to share what we know, and we just want to give you all the advice. And if you need any more questions at the end, just feel free to get in touch and we can help you through it. So just start the presentation. So it's an introduction, like I said, and it's presented by me. And this is where we get technical issues right here. So the importance, so water systems can potentially be life-threatening if it's not cared for, especially in situations where vulnerable people are located. So like Brett said, we're big in the care sector, so there are vulnerable people there, and we need to consider that bacterial contamination and scalding. Those are the main risks what we have to consider. We must do everything in our power, being in an organisation, to keep it as safe as possible. Taking care of water systems is just one part of the duty of care of all the things what we have to go do. So Legionella in the news. So the first one is, again, they're all sad stories, but Darryl Eales here, he recovered from leukemia, but on the day of he was getting released from hospital, he had a shower and unfortunately fell ill again. And from that shower, he's contracted Legionella disease, which unfortunately he's lost his life through it. And that's all down because there was no systems in place to make sure the shower was clean, the water wasn't stagnating, the descale of the shower. So unfortunately, something small as that has created someone to lose a life after they beat a battle with cancer. Then we've got this other resident here. It's this one was when in a care home, they had a room and it was vacant for some time. This resident came in, the maintenance hadn't been looked after, the flushing hadn't been done. Again, the descales haven't been done. And unfortunately, again, he lost his life to Legionnaires because he's gone in the shower and he's through an aerosol, he's contracted Legionella, and unfortunately he's lost his life. But go into more detail about what Legionella is and how we can prevent it on the slides. So scalding in the news, the first one, again, it's drastic what happens. So in this case, first on the left, it's when there's a resident, again, TMVs, we'll go into that as well. So there's nothing in place to stop scalding happening. And with vulnerable people, you've got to look after them. And without the process in place, you can get incidences like this. So in this case, a resident was dropped into the bath because he was had a learning disability and he had epilepsy. He started to shake, and the carers pulled him back out, thinking he was having a seizure. So then when they checked and he wasn't, they put him back in, and that's again, he got scalded, and they pulled him out again because they thought again he was having a seizure, until the carers noticed that the skin was severely damaged. They realised that the water was too hot, and that was all down to a failed TMV. So there's processes in place again where we do an annual check of the TMVs, check that they're working. So responsibilities to comply with regulations. So statutory, we've got the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, section 2, 3 and 4. You've got the Control of Substances, Hazardous and Health Regulations 2002, Regulation 6. Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations 1999, Regulation 3. Then the non-statutory, you've got your ACOP L8, your HSG 274 Part 2, HTM 0401, etc. So those are the key documents where you can refer to. If you've got any issues, you can refer back to them, or you can get in touch with a service provider like NANT, and we can run through and what you need to do and how we can move forward. So responsibilities. So it's key that we have a management structure within the organisation. So you got your duty holder, which is your executive responsibility. You got your competent person, that's the organisation responsibility, and deputy, so the site responsibility. So we just break that down now. So we go to the duty holder. So they're the people overall in charge of the site of the organisation. So they ensure the safe systems of work and health and safety is implemented. Ensure that the scheduled tasks and the remedial work related to Legionella control are assigned to individuals. That's whether you've got an in-house team or again you've got a service provider like ourselves, NANT. And to ensure the records and everything is all recorded, dated and signed. Because again, if there's an instance where you get investigated, you've got to show all your records and show that the work's been carried out, etc. So the competent person, again, that's the organisation responsibility. So again, they ensure safe systems of work are implemented, that the scheduled tasks, similar really, ensure the individuals are actually trained to do so and they're competent to do so. Again, ensure the records are all up to date. So working with NANT, we have a portal and we work with other organisations' portals, and that's when all the records just get stored in a nice cloud. So there's no like ruffling through paperwork, it's all in a nice little portal. And ensure scheduled tasks and remedial actions are acted upon. So your deputy, that's the person on the shop floor really, so they're just following instructions from the competent person of checking things have been done, whether they've got to flush the taps, checking that the contractors have come in and done a good job and left. So risk assessments. Sorry I'm flying through this, because normally in a seminar we got people in the room and we can bounce off each other and get the questions in. So I do apologise for that. But our risk assessments are really in depth. They can be like a 60-page document because we write the site description, overall risk and a summary. So that basically tells you like the address and have you got a complicated water system, where the risks are going to be and what you have to address. So then we note down your management structure, their responsibilities like we've just been through. The remedial recommendations. So this is our Bible. We come in, we assess all the building, we take photos, we do schematics, we do floor plans. And then when we see like, oh, there's a heightened risk there, we do a remedial action, which is then put in the risk assessment. Then we contact the site to say, we advise to do these, and it's up to you whether you go with us or you can go with whoever to do the work. Your control measures recommendations, that's like your annual PPMs, say, so your expansion purge, your annual monthly, your monthly temperatures, your samples, etc. So again, like I said, the overall of the water system and the sentinels on site, your drawings and your asset summary. So solutions to scalding. So most of you may be aware of a TMV, which is a thermostatic mixing valve. So this valve stops the water going above 44 degrees and stops that scalding really. And these are essential. So you'll find these all across care homes, hospitals, anywhere where there's vulnerable people. So we fit these onto the pipework, and they have to get checked annually to make sure that they're still working appropriately. Going back to in the news, and unfortunately that resident got scalded. It's one of these where it didn't get checked and it failed, and the carers didn't know, and they just put it in, assuming that it was 44 degrees max, and unfortunately the resident got scalded. So what is Legionella? Again, this is where I'll put it out to the people involved who attended, but we haven't got that function really. So unfortunately, it's just a bit of more text for you. Legionella is a collective term for a disease by Legionella bacteria, including most serious Legionella disease, but similar, less serious is a Pontiac fever. So Legionella can be potentially fatal form of pneumonia, and everyone is susceptible to infection, but there's a higher risk of people over 45, smokers and heavy drinkers, people suffering from respiratory and kidney disease, diabetes, lung and heart disease, and anyone with an impaired immune system. So we've really got to take care of these people and be mindful of yourself. So one of the stories I like to tell is, you know, when you go on holiday for a couple of weeks, you come back on the plane, get home, jump in the shower to refresh. And then you start to feel, sometimes you start to feel ill, and I know I have a few times, and I put it down to the air conditioning in the aeroplane or just being on the plane. But then it's really opened my eyes up that I haven't run my taps in my house. I haven't put the shower on for 2 weeks, so that water is stagnant, and that's when bacteria can start to form. So when you put your shower on, you might have got a mild case of Pontiac fever without you knowing. So it's just something to be mindful of. So when you come back from holiday, make sure you run your taps, get that water circulating again. So how do you get Legionella disease? So you get it from breathing in from an aerosol. So that's the tiny droplets of water containing the bacteria that causes the infection. So it's usually caught in places like care homes, hotels, hospitals, gymnasiums, where bacteria has got into the water supply. So like in your homes, like your personal homes, you're more likely not going to get it because the turnover of water is quite high. But like in a care home and a hotel, when a room is left vacant for so long, without any management structure in place, that's when the bacteria can multiply. So you can get it from things like your air conditioning systems, your humidifiers, sparkles, hot tubs, tap showers that are, like I said, not used often. So your hot tubs, they're really a nice place to be, but they are a breeding ground for bacteria, and they love it in there because it's the right temperature and it's creating an aerosol. So it's imperative that the hot tubs are looked after correctly, like they're cleaned out properly, and it's at the right temperature. So just be aware when you're enjoying your lovely holiday, just be aware of your hot tubs and look at the maintenance before you jump in. So you can't usually get it from drinking water, but it's not saying you can't at all, because if you drink water and you accidentally cough it up, you're creating an aerosol again, and then tiny droplets of water can go back into your system or someone else's, and that's when they can get Legionella, but it's highly unlikely. You can't catch it from other people unless you do that, and you can't catch it from ponds, lakes and rivers. So water temperature is really key to, one, for scalding. It's got to it's going to be like 44 degrees is the max, and we'll just go through like the optimal growth range. So for temperatures between 20 and 45 degrees, that's where the bacteria love, and they'll multiply and multiply into the thousands and into the millions. And when it's dormant, but like the bacteria will be dormant below 20 degrees, because we can't stop bacteria getting to the water supply, because it comes from the water companies. It gets pulled into the organisations, and it's all about how we manage that and how we can reduce the likelihood of stagnation and the nutrients of rust and scale on the pipes. So that's when the breeding ground is. So cold outlets should be under 20 degrees within 1 minute. Hot outlets should be over 55 degrees before the TMV. So after the TMV, it's between 41 and 44. So before the TMV, it's going to be 55 degrees. And from the hot water vessel, it should be holding at 60 degrees. And that will kill the bacteria. So we do monthly testing. So your maintenance people, or you can get a service provider like us to come in, check every month, check your temperatures, and just make sure they're in spec. So what we've got, well, it's on the market now, and it's just a piece of hardware where it reduces the carbon footprint. So it doesn't, someone else has got to go around the whole organisation and the site checking the temperatures, when you can have an L8 remote. So this clips onto the pipe, and then it takes the temperature of the pipe and the flow chart, and it tells you how long it's been flushed for. So it comes up with a piece of data, and it'll send you directly, and it'll raise alerts if the water's too high and it's out of spec, and it'll give you that alert to act upon. So it might be a case of it hasn't been flushed enough, or it hasn't been flushed for long enough. And this is a great piece of kit, because again, it's 24-hour data, it's 365 days a week. So you haven't got to rely on someone going around and being accurate, just putting the water temperature in, because it's there and all the data comes back, goes into the nice portal. And again, like I said, you get your alerts. So some of the things to keep on top to make sure you're compliant with ACOP L8 and HSG 274 and HCM 0401. So like I said, it's very difficult to prevent the bacteria from entering the main supply. So control is needed. So we do this by, again, monthly temperature testing to check that you're in spec and there's no heightened risk. Expansion vessel purge 6 monthly, and that's when a member of staff or your maintenance go around and purge the vessel to get all the salt and the grit out the bottom, and just make sure it's all nice and clean. Same again with your hot water storage purge, that's annually. Your shower descales are quarterly, so that's again just descaling the whole shower, because when you get like sediment on the end of the shower, it can create an aerosol, and that just amplifies the aerosol, so you heighten risk. TMV servicing, not recovered, so that's annually. Cleaning, disinfectant, and that's planned, so that's annually, or reactive, when say there's a pigeon or a rodent or something's got into your water system where we need to react because it's going to cause mayhem. Samples annually, or that's what we advise, but some people like to have it quarterly, totally up to you. And acting up on remedial recommendations, so that'll be either from our risk assessment, or if you change something in your site, it has to be acted upon, then you should get a risk assessment, sorry. So again, it'd be highlighted on there if any remedial recommendations are needed. And like I said, you keep your risk assessments up to date. So it should be every 2 years, or if you have a significant change to the site. Sorry if I'm going too fast, but we just want to keep this short and sweet, really. We want to give you like a whistle-stop tour, and any more in-depth knowledge you need, just give us a shout, either email or give us a phone call, because some of these seminars go on for ages and you get bogged down with all the data. But all this presentation is going to be online. Brett's going to put it on, and so it's accessible. But if you need more information, or a seminar where we get more interaction with your staff, we put those on, and we can go more in depth and with all the technical knowledge and everything you need. This is just a whistle-stop tour, and I'll tell you what we're about and what values we have. So we love working with people. We look with top people in the care sector, and the hotel sector, the gymnasium. So we cover the whole range, but our main aim is to work more with them in the care sector. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll try and answer as much as I can.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, absolutely. It was a whistle-stop tour. There was a couple of things that have come up in the chat. Thank you, Trudy, who talks about and has put a link in for another organisation that was prosecuted under corporate manslaughter for the death of a 93-year-old as a result of scalding in a hot bath. We've also got a question, which is, do you colour code your action plans using a RAG rating? So red, amber, green, high, medium, low.
Yeah, so on the risk assessment, we on the remedials, we give priority 1, 2, and 3. So priority 1, as you guess, it's you need to act on it now. Priority 2, again, less serious, but you need to act on it again. Priority 3 is something what you should consider doing within the next 12 months.
Okay, thank you. And obviously, you very briefly mentioned about checks, and you talked about the L8 remote to do with temperature checks. So, I mean, in terms of frequency, and what kind of checks would you advise organisations to undertake to reduce the risk? So,
regarding the water temperature, it should be monthly checked at least. So that's manually going around and checking the temperature. So again, cold water under 20 degrees within 2 minutes, and your hot water at least 55. But with the L8 remotes, it's all automated. So the clip's on the pipe and it reads the temperature for you. So you've got that data 24 hours. So if you're concerned, you can always check the portal, our portal, or we can upload it to your portal, and you can check. You can see, oh, we are in spec or we're out of spec. And it will also send you an alert if you are out of spec and say, right, we need to look at this, something's wrong. Either the flushing hasn't been done and the water's stagnating and it's not getting the water flow, or it could be something on the bigger picture, and that's when we have to come in and investigate.
Okay. We've got another question in here, which is, what kind of debrief do you do with the homes? I've been to a few homes who don't know what the written scheme of control is, or how it applies to them. Some homes don't even have a risk assessment and think a certificate for deep cleaning, scaling is good enough.
No, well, I think they'll be in trouble if they get investigated. So we advise everyone should have a risk assessment, because that's the Bible and that's where you can refer to. And it's easier for the contractor or the maintenance person to know what outlet they have to go to, because it's all written down. It's all like on your floor plan. So again, it's saving time. So yeah, I'd really advise them to get a risk assessment and get schedules in place, because they can be could be a dangerous place to work.
Okay, and the next one, you may not be able to answer this one off the hip as such, but in terms of identifying a competent risk assessor, are there any pointers that you can give providers at looking at that? Obviously, I appreciate that you'd very much like to say just come to NANT, but broadly speaking, how would people determine a decent, competent risk assessor for this?
So for a risk assessor, it's slightly different, because that's like when a service provider. But to be a competent person, you have to be trained in Legionella, and that's where, again, we can do seminars for you, or there's online programs where you can watch it and you learn and you get passed off and you pass the test. That should be done on a yearly basis. Should be updated, so you keep on top of it, because these things change all the time. But yeah, just make sure you get your training, because that's part of the risk assessment and part of the recommendations.
And so, I mean, in terms of, if you, obviously you've got risk assessments, you have water safety specialists, and they will take Legionella counts, they will do sampling. And obviously there are actionable levels. But what sort of things can homes do, and providers do, sorry, in terms of keeping that risk to a reasonable level and keeping those counts down? What are the sort of the basic day-to-day things that can be done?
I think the basic one is keep flushing those taps. And it's not really, like you say, like a maintenance person say they might flush your tap, but our flushing is probably about, I don't know, a minute, but we advise up to 5 minutes. And I know you might think, oh, that's a lot of water wastage. But it's key to get that water flowing around your organisation, around the site, because there's some massive sites out there. We have to get it through, because if it starts stagnating, you're giving the bacteria the opportunity to grow. And so just keep on top of your flushing, keep on top of your scheduling, and keep your risk assessment updated, because that's when we can see the risk, where it's heightened, and what actions to be taken.
And in terms of flushing, I'm assuming that you're specifically referring to sentinels, dead legs, those sorts of things, and low frequency use. So where you've got rooms that have got taps on and so forth, that aren't used for long periods of time. That's your frequency, and should, if I remember correctly, should be highlighted in your risk assessment and documented.
Yeah, so again, our risk assessment's brilliant, really, and it'll tell you everything in detail, and where the sentinels are, where are all the outlets. But if you've got the L8 remotes again, that highlights it. Oh, this hasn't had a flow, and it'll alert you to go on and go and flush that tap, or go and flush that outlet. And that's what's so good about the L8 remotes, because it will alert you, and it will prompt you to, oh, it's easy to miss a tap, isn't it? Because we've all done it. But this will prompt you, right, you need to go and flush the tap in a clean and scrubbed safe. And there you go, because it will tell you the temperature, because if the temperature's below, again, the alert will be created. If you don't notice it, we will, and we'll get in contact with yourselves and say, right, you had no flow events on this tap, can you run it through to get the temperature back up to stage, up to grade, then the stagnation as well.
Thank you. And then I've got one more question, and if anybody has any questions once we sort of finish this question, please feel free to raise your hand, as there have been a couple of questions that we've already gone through within the chat. But obviously we talk about low use taps, but are there any specific environments that you would expect to find in care homes, care environments, that you would consider to be at higher risk? So I understand that things like cooling towers can be a particularly high risk, but you know, other things that would create a higher risk environment in terms of Legionella. Yeah,
so I think vacant rooms is a massive one, because if there's not a schedule in place saying how long that room has been vacant, then the turnover of water is not there. And if someone forgets about turning it over, again, like we went back on the Legionella news where someone unfortunately lost their life because of it. But like you said there, cooling towers, water systems, if there's dead legs, dead ends, if there's like, you know, just chop the pipe off without taking it back to the mains, creates that stagnant water there, and if someone opens that again, there's going to be bacteria everywhere. But like you say, it's just keeping on top of things. And for more technical knowledge, our office is jam-packed of technical people, and what we do as an account manager, we just liaise with the technical people, get all the right answers out to people. So if you've got any queries, just again contact us and we can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Trudy. It's just added about need to think about rooms that are no longer used, or are used for storage. And I have to say that's a common theme, certainly within care homes, where there's been a change of use of room. And I've seen it equally where dead legs haven't been managed appropriately, and you know, a kitchenette has been removed from a room to make room for storage. And then nobody's considered the risk, the increased risk of that dead leg not being accessible for flushing. And another thing, you talk about TMVs, and one of the things that we've also found as time's gone on is access to TMVs and the service and maintenance of those in order to reduce the risk, and the descaling. Is it something that you would also advise, and is it something that you would support where an organisation faces those difficulties?
Yeah, like I said, we have some problems with like plumbers coming in and fitting systems, but they're not necessarily Legionella trained. So what they've done is brilliant, you know, they've fitted it, but they haven't considered like the Legionella side of it. So like your TMVs, some are inaccessible because they've built them behind a cupboard really. So what we come in is we assess them and like we can't get access to it, so we advise a hatch being fitted. So that's when you try and get the accessibility to it. So it's really key where if you've got a new building, just make sure the plumbers like Legionella trained and Legionella aware, because it will save you in the long run.
Excellent, thank you. So I put that out to others if anybody else has any questions then please feel free to raise your hand. I do have Mark Lewis. Mark, if you could unmute yourself and ask away.
Thanks, Brett. Hi, Simon. Thanks. This has been absolutely so useful. This last half hour really has. Simon, in terms of, I'm so worried about the threat of the water issue. We have a network of supported living houses, and we also have some extra care schemes within our jurisdiction. And in the past, there have been some incidents. In terms of training, Simon, so someone like myself who's within our works within a small charity, what would I need to make me kind of compliant and competent, bearing in mind that I suppose the ultimate responsibility often lies with landlords. However, our relationship with landlords at times over hot water can get a little strained. So what do I need to kind of equip myself in terms of training?
So again, we've got training online, so we do a video tile, so that will just give you the outline. So if you go onto our website, go onto training, and then there's a video tile of Legionella awareness, and that will give you the right things to back people up. So if you need to challenge someone, the information is there. And again, with the health and safety, if you just go onto their website and they give you all in detail, or you can give us a call, because this is what we're here for as well, about giving advice. So if you're unsure about anything, just give us a call and we can point you in the right direction. It doesn't mean that you have to take our services at all. We just want to help you and make sure everywhere's safe. That's what we're all about.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Excellent. Any more questions for Simon? I don't see any hands being raised, so you may have had a stay of execution, Simon. But as Simon says, obviously his details were on there. They will also be available on our website and through NANT Ltd, NANT Ltd. Obviously, you can do that. Simon has also just put up to everyone a survey. Simon, I'll let you very quickly explain what that is.
Yeah, so if you can all do me a favour, it'll give me some credibility upstairs. It'd be brilliant if you could just fill in our survey if possible. If you could just spend 5 minutes, it's not even 5 minutes, just to answer a few questions so I can improve this training going forward, because I didn't want to bore people today. I just wanted to get the key information out to you guys and just open that door so you can come approach us and we can help you as much as we can. So it's nice if you want, if you might say, we want more in depth about expansion vessel purges, say, and that's where I can adapt and make this training better. So thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Simon. Thank you for that presentation, very informative, and for answering the questions that I threw at you completely off the hip. I appreciate. And really, it's just for me to wrap up very quickly with some dates for diary for those of you that are interested in our next events. So we have a conversation and catch up is our next event, which is on the 7th of February. That's where we basically catch up online via Zoom, and we advertise it through LinkedIn, various other channels. We have an hour's conversation where we talk about the key topics of today. And generally a short networker, and as I say, it's just an hour. You can pop in any time during that hour, so don't feel that you have to turn up at 10:30 and have to leave at 11:30. It's literally one of those, just sort of pop your heads in. Then we will have, and further details of this next event will be available on the website very soon. On the 14th of February, we have our next webinar, which is another 10 to 11. All our conversation and catch-ups are always on the first Tuesday of every month from 10:30 to 11:30. And we have 10 webinars through the year. Obviously, you have to appreciate that Christmas time, and I appreciate that's still 11 months away. Sorry to upset anybody who's not counting down quite yet. So we don't have one then, and then August time, potentially we wouldn't have one, and where we have other face-to-face events. But our next webinar is on the 14th of February, and generally is the second Tuesday of every month. We have potentially an online networker in March. Dates and details will be confirmed closer to the date. And just as a preemptive notification, on the 15th of June, we have our AGM, and we also have our seminar on the same day, and that will be at Queen Street in London. That will be an in-person event where it's very likely that you'll see NANT again. And obviously, as Simon has quite rightly said, if you've got any questions in relation to water safety management, if there's anything that you wanted to clarify in terms of the presentation, or if you're just looking for advice and guidance, NANT are more than happy to support you with that. No obligation. You won't suddenly be asked for your credit card details or to sign up or anything like that. It's a genuine, just give them a call or ping them an email. And they'll be quite happy to support you. Equally, if you've got any questions for NASHiCS, if you go on to NASHiCS.org, you'll see all of our details on there. That's National Executive. Feel free to message or call, and we will attempt to answer your questions. As I say, this presentation has been recorded and will be made available on our website along with the presentation, which will be sent out to you all. And a Q&A crib sheet will also be sent out to you all, the questions that have been asked. And I do note that somebody in the Q&A did ask, in the chat, did ask the question about the cost of the L8 remote. I deliberately haven't asked that question, but I'm sure if you answer that question. If you contact NANT Simon directly, I'm sure that they will be able to have that discussion with you. So that just really leaves me to say thank you very much for attending. Thank you for your support, and we will see you at the next webinar.
Thank you all. Thank you all for participating. Really appreciate it.